Yeah. No, that you're right. But that's what that picture evokes, no question. But the
Timeless.
Davey Roberts picture gives me that same gritty feeling of the intensity of that exact moment in time. And what's amazing is in that moment in time, the entire fortunes of an entire region in this country changed.
That's right. By the way, to make you feel any better, I was born in Boston, okay? So I know the heartbreak. I know your heartbreak.
Thank you.
Talking to baseball historian Neil McCabe, The Big Show, published by Abrams. You get it at Amazon.com, major bookstores everywhere. All right, so I got to ask you this question, because every time we talk to a baseball historian, I got to throw this. How much of the sale of Ruth was No Nanette, and how much was something else? Was it No Nanette, Harry Frazee, or was there something else involved beyond that?
Have you ever heard of a guy named Frank McCourt? That's all I can. I mean, what else is there to say? The guy was a total, screw up, and he had no idea what he was doing. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was.
It was all No Nanette. Absolutely. Yeah. There's no doubt about that.
By the way, No Nanette was a great show. I'll give him that. It was still a bad deal. T for Two is a great song. I got to give it to you. But no, you shouldn't have got rid of it.
All right, we're again talking to baseball historian Neil McCabe. I said on this show just a half hour ago that if Peter O'Malley reclaims the Dodgers, what he ought to do, and I think he would, move spring training back to Vero Beach, Florida, no matter what the cost, because that is Dodgerville, that is Dodgertown, that is Snyder and Robinson and Newcomb and the rest, and McCourt didn't get that, and of course he tried to save some bucks by moving it to Arizona. Do you think that, honestly, if Peter took over the club again, he might think about moving back to Vero Beach?
He grew up at Vero Beach.
Yeah.
Of course he would. And also, he's like these baseball pictures. Everything about baseball that makes it wonderful. The reason we're talking about it is because of the tradition. Because of my father, your father, everybody's grandfather. They loved baseball. If enough guys like Frank McCourt take it over, forget it. It's like worldwide wrestling or something.
All right, Neil, I want to put you on the spot here. I am anti-Bud Selig. He thinks he's a Hall of Famer down the road. I think he missed the steroids, and everybody else seemed to see him. He didn't see him, and he allowed this to happen, the takeover by Fox, and then the worst takeover of all time by McCourt. How much of this goes on Selig that McCourt was able to take over the Dodgers?
All of it. The guy's an idiot. He should never have. Well, how could you miss the steroid scandal? I would see guys at Dodger Stadium, their forearm was as big as my thigh. I said, this is not normal. Popeye is not a real person. So, how did Bud Selig miss this? He turned a blind eye, and in the Big Show, I got a picture of the original Commissioner of Baseball. Judge Keenan saw him out in land.
Yeah. I saw that picture, and I have to tell you something. I mean, what a mean SOB in that shot, huh?
Hey,
that's a tough picture. Wow. I love that picture. I'm looking at it right now, actually. It's amazing.
8 men out in 1919, it's because of that guy. He said, you guys are gone.
Right.
I don't mess around. Right. And that's what we need today. Some guy who's going to say, sorry, guys, you got to play by the rules.
So owners don't want that, though, Fred, right, guys? I mean, Neil and Fred, I mean, owners do not want a Bowie Kuhn, Kennesaw Landau type of guy. I mean, it's obvious.
They want to be able to push him around. So I guess, Neil, you wouldn't vote for Bud for the Hall of Fame?
He doesn't have my vote.
Well, let me ask you guys a serious question, though. I mean, I know we're all over this guy for the steroids and the McCourts and all that, but just by virtue being the commissioner of baseball, he's got to be in. He has to.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I think if you lead the league, if you lead the league in leadership in the top spot for X amount of years, whether he was a terrible commissioner or otherwise, he has to be in the Hall of Fame. Otherwise, you're completely disowning your history, your past.
Neil McCabe, we're going to let you get the last word. Agree or disagree with the nonsense that JBK just said? Go ahead.
I hate to say it, but that's a little nonsensical. Because what if you really messed up your job, and you're a blot on the history of the game?
He is. But unfortunately, it's your past, and you can't turn your back on your past. So I'm just saying, not because he was a great commissioner, but just by virtue of holding the office. It's like saying, it'd be like skipping presidents and saying, well, there was, number 40 and number 41. I mean, 42.
Yeah, but you wouldn't rate George W. as one of the best presidents of all time. He wouldn't get into the President's Hall of Fame just because he was there.
I prefer to let time answer that question, Fred. I always told you that history is going to be very kind to George W. Bush. Don't start me. We have a nice guest honest on the air, I don't want to go there right now.
Hey, Neil McCabe, The Big Show, most enlightening book, and I love your blurbs and the pictures. You're on the national show with us tonight, and thank you for appearing today right here on the Morning Brew.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you later.
Neil McCabe, baseball historian. I love talking to baseball historians who can set us all straight. Harry Frazee, known on the net, and the rest of it. Hey, we're going to come back and talk about, the National Basketball Association, and is there going to be any games at all in 211, 212? I'm voting no. I don't think so. And JBK, the attorney, will tell us what decertification really means as far as that is concerned. All right, I'd love your thoughts. 1-888-909-1050. You can email us, sportsfred@aol.com. All straight away on the Morning Brew.
And JBK on Morning Brew.
When you gonna learn, gonna do it till you're satisfied.
Fred Wallen and JBK on Morning Brew.
Hey, good morning, everybody. JBK, Morning Brew, right here on the Inland Empire's Talk Express. Hey, Fred, this is a very big weekend in sports. By the way, I didn't mention this, but tomorrow is what I call my day of retribution. Tomorrow is a day that I've been waiting for almost 4 years, and that's when the New York Giants come to Foxborough for the first time in a regular season or a meaningful game that's not exhibition, to play my New England Patriots. And I'm just going to say this right now. I'm getting it out there. I don't want the Patriots to win tomorrow. I want the Patriots to not only win, I should say, but I want them to punish the Giants for what happened 4 years ago, because they ruined my life in 2008. That's all I have to say.
I'm in a couple Survivor contests, and I'd have the Patriots in one of those tomorrow, but their defense is nothing to call home about, the Patriots' defense, and Eli might have a field day on that side, too. I think there'll be a lot of points will be scored. Do you think they'll cover the 9-point spread is basically what you're hoping and saying?
I'm not only hoping and saying, I'm going to tell you right now that they're going to cover the 9-point spread, and you're going to see a much tougher, nastier defense tomorrow. I don't think, by the way, everybody seems to be piling on the defense of the Patriots for what happened in Pittsburgh last week.
Right.
To me, the acute failure of that game was the offense. It wasn't the defense. The Patriots had the ability to win that game with like 30 seconds left if they got in a miracle drive. The fact that they were even still in it up until their last possession tells me that it was not necessarily all defense that fell apart last week. It was clearly, in my opinion, the inability of the offense to match Roethlisberger on the possessions. That's all.
All right, I want to switch to, there's no NBA action today. Oh, that's right. We were locked out for 127 days, 128 days. Most of us don't care because we're saving money by not paying the bucks to DirecTV or your cable or satellite service for the NBA package, or we're saving the money from going to the Staples Center or whatever. But the NBA seems to think we do care. What does the term decertification mean as far as the season is concerned? I've read dire thoughts about that, that if they try to decertify, then basically the season is done right now for sure.
I think that if they decertify, then that is clearly the nuclear option here, and it's going to blow up the season. I couldn't agree with you more. Here we go again. This is the second time in a matter of 6 months where I've had to explain what decertification means on a sports talk show, which means we're getting so far away from sports and into more, the business of it and the law. But decertifying means that you are no longer able as a union to collectively bargain on behalf of your members, i.e. the players, which means that the National Labor Relations Board does not govern anymore, and labor laws don't govern, but now everybody is an individual. They're not collectively represented by the union, and you can go after the NBA, in this case, under antitrust laws, which means that they can attack things like the draft, for example, and salary caps, because that all gets attacked under an antitrust landscape, whereas under the labor laws of this country, they're not. So that's what they're trying to do, and it's pretty much a tactical move, and it's going to fail.
Of course, 6 years ago, the NHL owners tried it, and most people tell you the NHL is not back to where it was even then. They saved a few bucks over the next few years, but as far as fandom coming back, a lot of us have not, and I've done pre- and posts for the Kings and the Ducks, and I have not come back, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of people. I think the NBA players think of themselves as more important than they are, and I definitely think the NBA owners think of themselves far beyond what they are, and I just don't like, of all this, I don't like David Stern's nonsensical number numbers that he's playing with us. 22 teams are losing money as if, first of all, that's not true because nobody's opened the books. But the bottom line is maybe 11 teams are losing money. And we can go from there. But in reality, of course, JBK, the league itself is making millions upon millions. David Stern doesn't come clean with that, and I think that's unfair to all of us. Your thoughts?
Well, Fred, I mean, listen, you could sit there and throw this all at David Stern. All right, that's fine. But fact of the matter is he has to answer to owners, and there is a faction of ownership in that league right now that is very hardcore about this, and more hardcore than David Stern himself, and led by none other than Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And he's obviously the player that I think catapulted the NBA to this economic situation, because not unlike the .com craze of the 90s, Michael Jordan was the .com of basketball, in that it took it to such a higher level and higher strata, it inflated everything around him. So it's interesting to see him now becoming Mr. Hardcore Fiscal Conservative, when back in the day he would clearly have been on the player side. And it's amazing what happens when you change hats and sit behind the desk, right?
I wonder how much of that, though, is just his supreme ego, that he's more important than any of these modern players put together, and don't they understand that? And
no, I think, you know what I think it is, Fred? I think it's the fact that he owns a team in a small market that already had one NBA team fail there before. Really.
Well, I'm going to state this. George Shinn is one of the worst owners in the history of sports. He'd rank with Frank McCourt as far as that is concerned. In a state like Carolina, in a state like North Carolina, if you can't sell basketball, you're doing something wrong. And then Shinn takes up, I want to go to New Orleans, where football is king, and we've seen the results. That team doesn't draw either.
Another failed market, right, for basketball.
Yeah, it's a horrible market for basketball, but that was his choice. He actually left Carolina for New Orleans. Well, one of them is a basketball, the basketball is everything, and the second one, it's football. I mean, obviously, you think people in New Orleans care about the NBA versus college football, LSU, Alabama, and all the schools in the Southeastern Conference? Nonsense. It's almost beyond belief. Before we leave you, JBK.
Yes.
What about $2,000 per player for in certain conferences, and yet not in other conferences? I find this totally unfair, and the rich just get richer in about 30 seconds. What do you think?
You know what? Governing bodies have been having a very bad week in uniformly applying laws all across the board. I don't agree with it. I think if you're in the NCAA, one rule applies to all. If you're in the NFL and you tackle Wes Welker by the neck, you should get fined just as much as Kevin Falk for a chop block in the same game. I got a real problem with it. Now, Palomalu gets fined for calling his wife from the sidelines, but not for taking my number one receiver's head off last week. I'm angry, and I'm ready. Go Patriots. Giants are going to be hurt tomorrow. Mark my words, buddy.
I think it'll be a high-scoring game. I really do. I think the Cowboys... Well, you don't, huh?
Nope. I think the defense is going to just come through tomorrow with flying colors for the Patriots. I love it when they're angry and when they have a chip on their shoulder. And you know what? The more everybody attacks them as a unit, the happier JBK is.
That's JBK. I'm FW. Happy to have you aboard every week right here, 8 to 9 on the Morning Brew. And again, you can email us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, sportsfred@AOL.com, sportsfred@AOL.com. UCLA, Arizona State. And if you're a Bruin fan, you're hoping for Arizona State today so that Neuheisel gets closer to that plank and then we can all push them out together. Well, and, of course, please email us during the next week. JBK, we'll see you around the corner. Neil McCabe, thank you for making an appearance. Nick, thank you for putting the show together. See you next week, same time, same station, AM 1050 KCA. Bye, everybody.
Fred Wallen and JBK on Morning Brew.